Hi guys! Yesterday I read a staggering statistic. $100 billion is spent in the home garden industry around the world annually. $100 billion. That is a lot of money. So today I wanted to talk about ways I save money in the garden. The first one I wanted to talk about is propagating plants. Nursery grown plants can be very expensive and they can add up. The more excited you get about your garden and the more planting you want to do, you can spend a fortune on nursery plants. So I have learned some great techniques for propagating my own. And I am looking at one right now. I have a beautiful begonia, which was a gift from my husband, but in front I have planted up the container with coleus cuttings. And those cuttings have come from this plant. This is a plant I bought last year. I overwintered it inside, and this spring I've been busy cutting off of it and using it for filler plants. And they're gorgeous. They're so easy to do. In my case, I put it in some water, rooted it for a week, and I had lots of plants to put out in my containers. But if you have some light, airy soil, you can just even put the stems, the cut stems, right down into that soil and it will root up. So let me show you where else I've put this beautiful plant in the form of cuttings. I popped it in with these geraniums. And over here, I think this one came out so pretty. This one also is in with geraniums, and it's got that kind of rusty red. I just think it's so beautiful. Sounds like I'm being admonished by a mother bird. It's also very easy to take cuttings from trees or shrubs. These are cuttings that I had in a flower arrangement. I think I showed it to you when I showed you my Sweet William video. And I decided to pop those down into a pot of soil where I was growing marigold from seed in the middle. And each year I do that with my spring prunings. I just sort of scratch up the bottom of the stem and pop them down into some soil. And guess what? They usually root and they will give me new plants. So let me show you what plants I've gotten from taking some cuttings just by sticking them down into the soil. This giant boxwood here is a cutting from my mother's townhouse about 25 years ago. And it has done beautifully ever since I took it as a cutting. It rooted, I think, within 3 months, and I've been growing it ever since, and I can think of my mom every time I see it. Here's another beautiful 2-year-old boxwood, and I have 3 of them along the fence here. So I'm going to have 3 beautiful boxwoods growing along my fence for $0. Just takes a little patience and they'll turn into their own shrub. And I have pots of these little cuttings all around the yard, and they're just from my topiary adventures. I'm not even setting out to take cuttings in the first place. I'm just using things that get pruned off the bushes I already have. I've got 3 of these new shrubs in this garden back here that are going to grow up and be beautiful evergreens. And they just came from trimmings from a low-hanging branch from my neighbor's yard. And I believe they're euonymus. But I popped them in soil last year, and now they're little bushes. Totally free. I've got 2 fig trees back along my fence on the back side of my property. And the one on the left was a cutting taken from a branch of the one on the right. So I got a totally free fig tree just by popping a cutting down into some soil and waiting for about 3 months for it to root up. I believe I did this last spring, and now I have an extra, totally free fig tree. Fig trees are extremely easy to root. All of my autumn Joy Sedum was grown from cuttings from one distressed plant I purchased last year at Lowe's. It was actually falling apart. Many of the stems weren't even attached to the roots anymore, and I just popped them around the garden. Some of them are in the soil and some of them are in pots, and now I probably have 8 different clumps of autumn Joy Sedum. The next way to propagate plants is one that we all know about, and that is to grow from seed. You can save an enormous amount of money if you use your own seed-grown plants. This zinnia packet was 4 for $1 for 25 cents. I probably had 30 zinnia seeds. That could be 30 potential plants. And this year around my town, the going rate for a tomato plant, a tomato start was $4 to $8. Now I never could have planted 25 tomato plants in my yard for $8 each. That's so much money. But I have gotten so much value by nurturing some plant seeds. Plant as much as you can from seed and you'll save lots of money. My Sweet William were grown from seed 2 years ago, and my hollyhocks were planted at the end of last summer, and they're about to bloom from seed. Dividing plants is also a great way to get free plants. You can take your own plants and divide them into multiple plants, or you can share with friends like my friend Lori did. She divided her daylilies, her ferns, and her hostas, and many more things throughout my garden. And by doing that, digging it up and cutting it into smaller plants, she was able to share so many things with me. You can also do this with one store-bought plant. Let me show you what I did last year. Last year I bought a hydrangea plant and I split it into 4 pieces, and 3 of them survived. So essentially I got 3 plants for the price of 1. So that brings down the cost of the plant considerably. So if you divide every plant you buy, think of how many free plants you'll be gaining. Oh my goodness, look right here. I have tomato volunteers. I grew a blueberry cherry plant here last year. It must have dropped a tomato, and a few of the seeds have germinated. I have free cherry tomato plants. That is just amazing. It's an heirloom variety, and hopefully I'll get the same type of tomato. We'll see, because I'm going to put these in some seed cells, grow them a little stronger, and plant them back out where I want them. Here's another one right here, and 3 more. That is just amazing. Here's some that I took from my back garden, and I'm nurturing them along, building them up a little stronger, and they too will be set out into the garden wherever I want a tomato plant. And these will be a surprise because I forgot what types of tomatoes I had in this particular area. This little peach tree sapling was growing in the parking lot of my post office. There was a crack in the pavement, and this little seedling had come up, and it was right next to a peach tree. It was covered with peaches. So I brought it home. I saved it from being destined to be sprayed with Roundup, and I popped it in my garden. And look guys, I have 1 free peach tree just from realizing that it was the same type of tree that was growing peaches. So we'll see what happens. I didn't pay a cent for that one. This gorgeous redbud tree came from my neighbor's yard across the street. he recognized that little saplings were growing underneath. And this is a tree that comes up pretty readily in our area in Maryland. So he shared it with neighbors. I've shown you this before. This is my Japanese maple sapling, and it has turned into a little tree. I dug it up last year in my front yard. It was growing under my own Japanese maple, and I recognized the leaves, which are very easy to spot because they're red and they have that distinctive shape. So guys, I got a valuable Japanese maple just by paying attention. In years past, I've spent so much money on compost and soil to make my plants grow. And a couple years ago, I started composting, and I can't believe that I have been able to produce so much compost. I produced all the compost that filled up my new containers. And everything in your compost bin can be free. It can be yard trimmings, it can be cardboard. I get mine at the grocery store for free. The man in the dairy aisle and the produce section know that I like to collect boxes for my compost, and they're all on board with it. But I get free cardboard. You can use your Amazon boxes, your kitchen scraps, your yard waste, and all of this will break down, if you're just a little bit patient, it'll break down into some beautiful, rich, usable garden soil for your garden. And guess what? It's better than anything you could buy at the store. The compost bin itself was free. In certain counties, they'll provide you with a free compost bin. And I know mine gives out 2 per family per year. All of that compost goes into my container bins, and I was able to fill these bins for practically nothing when I could have used 21 bags of potting mix. So now I have some rich organic soil. I know exactly what went in it, and I saved a lot of money by composting. You can save a lot of money on your mulching needs if you just think about what you have right in your own garden. I had all this miscanthus grass that I had cut back from the fall garden, and I used it to make a mulched path. It's totally free. I put it on free cardboard from the grocery store and just layered it on. And now I have a wonderful path. It's much easier for me to navigate my garden, and I didn't pay a penny for it. So look for free items and things that might even be in your own yard for your mulching needs. You can save a lot of money by buying secondhand. This gorgeous wrought iron bench was purchased down the street at an estate sale for a fraction of what I would have paid if I had bought it new. Not even sure I could find anything this beautiful as a new purchase. But it was about $6 to buy some spray paint to fix it up quickly. And I have this gorgeous bench in my garden for a fraction of what I would have paid had I bought a new one. This sweet little birdhouse was 99 cents at Goodwill. Isn't it darling? This huge stand of tall bearded iris, which have finished blooming, were from eBay. They were $8 for all of those beautiful irises. This colorful garden sphere is a $2 Goodwill bowling ball, and it's sitting on a coffee can from my recycling bin. I just removed the top and bottom and made it into sort of a cylindrical stand, which I've sunk into the ground, and for $2 I have a gorgeous piece of garden art. And this beautiful ceramic piece was also from a charity shop. What a great find. This one was a whole $2.99. So definitely check out secondhand sources for things for the garden, including plants. You can go to places like Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Craigslist, charity shops, all kinds of resources you can go to and just spend a fraction of what you'd spend if you bought it new. And chances are you're going to find more interesting things. The last thing I wanted to talk about is making your own free fertilizer. All you have to do is put green weeds and kitchen scraps, anything you want, into a closed bucket of water, and you will get a disgusting brew that is a nutrient-rich fertilizer. And it only takes 2 to 3 weeks. And this is a thrifted pan, by the way. I just dedicate it to that. I'll never use that again for anything else but dishing out my homemade fertilizer. But look, guys, it's nothing fancy. It's a repurposed bucket that has a lid. And you have to have a lid on it because you don't want mosquitoes and you don't want any animals to drown in there. You can pull your weeds, throw them in there, transfer the nutrients that those weeds have mined from the soil back into a bucket of water and make it into a liquid feed for your plants. And once you're ready to use it, you can take out some of the rotted material, put that on your compost, and look what you've got. You have a smelly brew. I will add about one of these to 10 parts of water, dilute it down, and put it all throughout the garden. Transfer those nutrients. It's a lot better than buying your own fertilizer, and I think the plants will love it. I may never buy fertilizer again. So guys, thanks for watching today. I hope I have saved you $100 billion in your garden by sharing my money-saving tips. I'll see you next time.